ASTERISM. I have been wanting to talk about this band for so long. This has been a subject that's come up so much in discussion on our Discord community. It's a band who everyone's always talking about. We first looked at them in like a little reaction thing years ago in 2019. We've been like, their lead guitarist has been chosen for our sort of super group that we made amongst the community and the voting process. Just ASTERISM are one of those groups who are so much in the conversation, and yet I haven't had a chance to do an ASTERISM album review. And so here we are, beginning our track-by-track review of Aside with the song Fiction, and boy, did they start off with a song that gives me a lot to unpack. So, let's unpack. Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where let's start by talking about what this song is. See, the thing is that we all know that ASTERISM are fantastic musicians, but there's one big difference between being a good musician and, well, being a good songwriter. And, you know, a lot of the bands who I think ASTERISM often like and often reference in covers and various things that you see them playing the songs of online are not necessarily bands who I'd go, wow, they're fantastic songwriters. They're usually good riff writers and stuff. So my expectations for ASTERISM's songs were maybe a little bit modest, but boy oh boy, Fiction, it might be the shortest song on the album, but they pack a lot into this song, and I've got to be honest, it's something of a writing masterclass. I absolutely love it. Let's break down what exactly this song is made up of. Now, when we start by talking about what this song is arrangement-wise, it's worth me pointing out that I think a lot of people, when they're talking about ASTERISM, they're going to focus on musicianship, but we know where ASTERISM come from. I'm not really going to talk about that because we just know they're great musicians. We know that they're playing to the max. That bit we know. But I really think that a lot needs to be said for the songwriting. Now, in a lot of ways, you could say that there's a sort of traditional contemporary vibe to this, and that we start off going verse, chorus, yeah. But even then, the verses just, I don't feel like we're repeating the verse. It's not like verse and second verse could just be like copy pasted. They really do change it up. There's a feeling that whether it be done from the perspective of a musician or a songwriter, there is an attention to the details, an attention to having the instruments doing interesting and different things rather than just regurgitating and recycling various parts of the song over and over again. You know, two identical verses, two identical choruses. That's not what we get. And even up to the end of the song, we get that bridge where it breaks down. You've got that lovely bit where the bass goes up high and it's playing in that sort of nice sort of melodic phase, that melodic space. And then it sort of builds out of the bridge towards that final crescendo, which itself is not a repetition of the chorus. And I just really like that. You know, the final, you know, the choruses that we get at the beginning is very much about shouting loud. But then when we get to that last bit, we got a full-on melody to play us out. You know, the crescendo of the song is a nice melody. Yeah, it's a song that really feels like, whether it be done from the perspective of musicians who just want to showcase all of their talents or not, it is a song that is written with a attention to both keeping the listener interested, giving you lots of new things, pummeling you with fresh ideas every few seconds, but at the same time not doing it in a way that shakes you off. It doesn't feel like they're so keen to impress you with what great musicians they are that you just kind of like, oh, okay, focus. No, it does feel focused. And that, to me, is one sign that this is a really well-written song. Great song to put front and center on an album as well. Now, a lot also has to be said for the choice of sounds used here. Now, in the same way that I'm a bit of a writing nerd, I know there is probably about 5 times as many equipment nerds out there. The conversations had about string types and amplifier types, to people like me who are more into writing, they get very boring, but I know a lot of people like that, and one of the big subjects that comes up is guitar pedals. Well, I've got to say, I'm all on board for the fact that this is an example of how to really use those sounds beautifully. I mean, the fact that it's all coming from your guitar, bass, and drums, very clear that there's a lot of those very authentic sounds in there, but I really like the way they use them. Notably, in that first verse, how we have that kind of nice, spaced out, chilled, kind of 60s, 70s kind of guitar sound. It's very smooth, very clean, but has that kind of spaced out, echoey feel. But then when we get into the second verse, the bass moves up into a high register and it's doing sort of like, rather than the bass being down low thumping, it's doing a lot of very high sort of twiddly scales up top. Now that means that the guitar can go into playing more of a louder distorted vibe for the best part of the second verse, and it all balances out quite well. So again, that sort of focus on the sounds of the instruments allowed them to inform what they were going to do playing wise as well. There's a nice sense of balance in all of that. And that leads again into that final crescendo where everything kind of, it's not quite the punk charge that we had in the first two choruses, but it becomes more big and anthemic, and the sounds again are picked really well to do that. So for me, again, it's not just a sense of knowingly writing a song, but also knowingly choosing the sounds really well. It all sounds fairly obvious, but this is the kind of thing that so many bands, more experienced bands, kind of overlook. You know, maybe they become too complacent. Asterism, everything sounds really like there's a lot of care and a lot of attentiveness going into it, and that's one of the big selling points of this. Now, in conclusion, that does mean that we have a song that is just a really engaging opener. It should, however, be said that obviously the net result of this is that we don't have a single, you know, in the traditional sense, and it's not one of those songs where you go, oh wow, yeah, that's really catchy, I'm going to come back round to it. The effect is what's going to stay with you more than any particular moment where you go, oh, that's the big refrain, that's the big chorus, because it doesn't really land anything like that. It's more just the feeling of, wow, I heard a really good quality song that's going to really make me want to go and press play again, rather than sticking in my head as something that's going to just be there going round and round. It's going to be something where occasionally I'll look across, I'll see that album cover, that really depressing album cover, Asterism. We need to talk about this album cover at some point. Just anyway, you see that and you think, okay, depressed faces aside, I remember how great the first track is. I really want to get back into that right now. Press play. You know, it's one of those songs that it will stick with you just from the memory of what quality it is. And I know that we expect this from Asterism. That's how they came into everyone's sort of knowledge, is from being so fantastic at such a young age. But as I said before, there is a big difference between being really wow musicians and being able to construct a really good song. So for me, this is the example of how you open an album. Not going for the big single, but going for something that really grabs people, makes them go wow for all the right reasons, doesn't bore them, doesn't sound like a show-off, just sounds like something where you really want to give people a lot of your ideas. You really want to throw ideas at them, but in a way that is enjoyable and palatable. I think Asterism have got a great opener here. It is, however, the shortest song on the album, and we're going to be talking about some of those longer songs next. So as always, get in the comments if you want to follow these. There should be a little link in the description, which will be the playlist for the Asterism review. Hopefully I remember if I've posted the rest by the time you watch this. But I'll be posting them sort of a few days apart as usual. But please do follow. As always, get into the comments, tell me what you think, and until hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these. For now, ciao ciao.